Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-host, Dr. Steve Jeffs, and myself, Erwin de Grave. And today we have the pleasure to talk to Merci Miglino. How are you doing, Merci?
I'm doing well, and the pleasure is all mine.
Oh, thank you very much. So, Merci, we could try to introduce you, but you know yourself much better than we do. So, who is Merci? What does she do nowadays, and how did she come in coaching?
Well, I came into coaching like a lot of people. I burned out of a high profile, stakes, political world. I'm political with a capital P. And that was 20 years ago. And it just got worse from there. One day I woke up and, I went into that world to change the world for the better. And I was surrounded by people who were not really, that wasn't their priority. And they became toxic. So it took me a while. Don't everybody think I just like whipped up and got out of that job. No, I had the book Toxic Work on my desk for about 4 years, but I couldn't take it 1 minute more. I was at the Democratic National Convention in Los Angeles. My boss, the elected, was acting really, really poorly. And so I walked off my job. And I never went back. And that's how I found coaching, because when I came out of that burnout, I realized I needed a squad of people to help me. I needed a psychologist. I needed a nutritionist. I needed a functional medicine person. And then I was like, what else do I need? Now, I didn't really know about coaching. I heard of Cheryl Richardson, and, she was probably on one of those women's magazines. And I started searching and I found a coach, and I think I was being coached for maybe 3 months, and that was it. This is what I want to do. It was the best part of what I did before, developing people. So, I had a staff of like 400 people, and I was known for picking people from all over the legislature and forming a team that really was a high performing team. So it was similar to that individual, but I have team coached. I also do, had group coaching engagements, anything to do with coaching or training. I enjoy training as well. I do it with a coach approach. And this last couple of years, don't ask me how they found me because I have no idea, all right? This gentleman was starting a coaching school in China. And we were in talks for like 6 months. Finally, he needed an MCC, and he wanted to create this coaching school in China. I told him I don't speak Chinese, but he said he didn't care. So I teach level 1 and level 2 coach training to a number of Chinese-speaking students, and I do it with real-time translation.
Wow.
So, yes, it is very challenging, but boy, I needed that challenge, because it's like, you come up to the point sometimes you're like, okay, now what? What don't I know yet? What don't I know that I don't know? Okay, that I could do this, and it's been in the last few years, it's been really exciting.
How has your coaching evolved through that experience, teaching with the real-time translator in Chinese?
The word that comes to mind is there's definitely a cultural thing. Yet, I was surprised, and many of the, when they peer coach towards each other, it's not uncommon for the struggle for them is to be independent, to be themselves, and somehow please their culture, not just the family culture, the Chinese culture, which is a bit Confucian still, which falls perfectly into coaching. But my transfer is I've had to take something that is very complex, uh, unnecessarily so, by the way. I think it's been researched to death and codified and manipulated, and every once in a while the powers that be come out with a new set of somethings, and I was like, the other one was just fine. What's going on here? So I'm not, I'm not an academic, clearly. I mean, I went to college, but I am not an academic. I sense things from my gut. I find people out there who, provide that kind of, fleshing out the picture. Um, but so with this Chinese, I definitely had to learn a lot more about the simplicity of coaching. Because when you teach, I've never taught a level one until now. At ICA, my former coach training, and I was director of communications and training there. And I never had to feel like that I was not saying enough or not getting down to the really simple stuff. This ACC level coaching is it's the start. It's not 100% coaching. So how do you remove the stuff that that and it's not that they can't comprehend it. Some can, but as a rule, this is the portal, the entryway into coaching. It's not the broken glass I crawled over to get my MCC. And I did. It took me 3 years. So yeah, so I found that it's just improved my coaching. It's made it more practical, simply more direct.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Interesting. Because yeah, I've been working. I speak 5 languages, so I've been doing coaching in different languages, and suddenly, if it's not your mother tongue, you need to come back to basics to
Mhm.
be able to communicate or ask the right question to get the response that you think that's the direction that it needs to go.
Yeah.
So I believe that a lot of people, and it's not only coaching, a lot of people make things too complex and just staying simple. So like in teaching Chinese people in coaching, well, just keep it as simple so that they can understand it. Because if you start, and now with AI, I think it's different that you can
Oh,
go more complex to translate, but still.
yeah. Yeah, it is still. And it's interesting that you say that the simplicity has to be there, at least to begin with. But I mean, if somebody asked me, what's the difference between PCC and MCC? I'll say confidence. Confidence. Confidence to ask the direct question, to let it go. Don't try to fix things. Don't worry about the outcome. That dancing in the space of not knowing. If I could teach my students one thing, and if I could go and they got it, that idea of not knowing, because we like to know. And look at the world. The world would rather believe and know something that isn't true versus not knowing. And that's most of what our clients come to us are stuck in somewhere in that mold of or that model really of wanting to know, and obviously growth and what's the word I'm looking for, an opportunity and um, innovation comes from not knowing and wanting to know.
So what do people want to know?
What do people
Why do people want to know?
want to know? Um,
Because you say
if
it's
it,
better to be in a place of not knowing, so why do they come
yeah,
to know?
right. It's neuroscientific. It's how the brain works. We're the comfort zone. We're always talking about the comfort zone in coaching, right? Well, the comfort zone is the place in your brain that says, "Oh, I know this. It's familiar," and anything else is going to be threatening. Therefore, I will choose to stay in the comfort zone. And the comfort zone generally is linked with what I know, what is familiar. To get out of that, it takes courage.
Mm.
It's not, it sounds silly, but it does, because you're working against biology in a way to say, no, I can leave the comfort zone and go over here to where it's not certain and find a way to be comfortable with it. And once you find that, you'll find yourself wanting to always, more often than not, be in that place of not knowing, because it's really energizing to me.
Mm. For many people, it's scary.
Yes, absolutely.
It's scary. But once they make that step, or you push them to make that step, it's like, oh, I've done it.
Yeah.
Wow. It's not
Yeah.
that difficult.
I'm not going to die. That's
No.
the bottom line. I'm not going to die. You
So,
know, I wish ICF had written into the trust and safety core competency that it's trust and courage, because it's a courageous space, not a safe space. Safe implies that, you won't be rattled, you won't be challenged. That's not true. It's a space of being courageous.
Tell us more about the what you see as the important role of courage for coaches. Because I see a lot of coaches, as you said, like playing it safe, being gentle, asking nice questions, and certainly for me, one of the things that in my journey to master coach is, well, actually, the coach isn't there just to ask questions. That there is a contribution that we get to bring. I mean, you spoke about advocacy and having opinions and having a view of the world, that often early coaches, we kind of say, look, forget everything you know and just ask questions. But then there's this other layer of human contribution that does take courage. So tell us more about that, the role of that as you see it in coaching.
Yeah. I think we're synthesizers. I'm proud of myself being able to say that word. We're synthesizers. Like, and I honestly don't know, but this has just always been the way I am. I see the connections of things very clearly. But if I see something, I need to say something. So if someone says, um, I really want to do this, but all of these things. And I'll say, well, it sounds like someone who has a lot of evidence not to do this. What might be the evidence to do it? Right now, they're not asking themselves that yet. That makes it a powerful question. Or if I notice someone says, I've been in this job a couple of months. I'm so glad I got the job, but I'm really afraid that I'm falling behind because people around me who've been here longer, I'm afraid they're going to think that I can't get it and I'll lose my job. The first thing that enters my mind, what has you comparing yourself to people who have been there several years and you've been there 2 months? What's that about? Because that's the crux of it. That's the misconception. I should be there. And if you say should, you're in another planet because it doesn't exist here.
so basically, what I hear what you're saying is, and I love to doing this as well, is just going like, sometimes go direct questions and challenge
Hmm.
them completely and say, so I sometimes go, so why are you lying to yourself? And the people say, why
Yeah.
you? It's like a wake up call, and,
Yeah.
and that's being courageous. What Steve says and what you both says about courageous. Be courageous about asking the questions, even though that the client could be upset, maybe
Hmm.
with that question, but you do this with the right intention.
Yes. Yes. And that's very important. You're not trying to change them. You're not trying to, coaching isn't about helping people. It isn't. It's about being an instrument or a channel to help them help themselves.
Mm.
So I think very much so that if I'm the observer and I see something, and direct communication used to be its own core competency in coaching, and they mushed it in with evoking awareness. And I think it stands alone because I see many coaches have trouble with being direct. They think it means you're being rude or opinionated. No, it's just like, what are you seeing here? And why aren't you saying it? And if the reason is, Erwin, that they're afraid they're going to be upset, well, then you have another question like, so what's so upsetting about this?
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever thought, because that's what about being courageous, asking the right questions. Have you ever thought do coaching in the political arena where you've been before?
There aren't many coaches in the political arena because those people can't be coached. No, that's my opinion. When I left politics, and it was, it was people burning out and dropping out of windows. It was like, so I said, well, this is going to be my niche. And what I learned was there weren't many people willing
Mm.
to, I mean, it was the velvet handcuffs. I was making more money than I ever thought I was going to make. I had two parking spaces. They went for gold. And to walk off your job. But I did start to coach people who wanted to leave their job in many or corporate settings, NGO settings, and those kinds of things. But it's you're still believing that you're going to change the world, and I don't see it out there. I don't see any real evidence that within the system you're changing the world. It's right now it's outside the system are the people who have some, on both sides, some desire to change the system. But by and large, political people are very black and white, and either or thinking. So, I worked for the Democrats, and so we demonized the Republicans. We were fighting the good fight. They weren't. They were the dispenser of red tape. They were like mucking everything up. So I haven't. I mean, I've coached a couple of people who've come out of that.
Mm.
But they're rare. But they're rare.
Yeah.
Fascinating. What's catching your attention these days, in and around the world of coaching?
Hmm.
Or even just in general? Like what?
Yeah. Well, I limit the news because it's not news. And I think what I do is I like listen. I listen to people on either side of this opinionated world that we're living in. And I mean in the States or what's going on in Israel or Gaza or, all the Ukraine. And what catches my attention is just how much the world is running on fear. And that's disturbing, I think. Understandable, but not useful. So that's what, if anything takes us down, it will be fear.
What can we as coaches in the coaching world do or to help that with that fear?
Yeah. Well, I do think that we can change people one person at a time.
Mm.
Unless they have some pathology like narcissism or something, that I find those people are perhaps not that coachable.
Mm.
But what do we do with everybody? First of all, I think if you drill down to any misconception, right? If you drill down, and I like the CBT's, 25 mental mistakes, and those are clearly they're misconceptions of people, beliefs that they have, ideas, rules that they live by or truly believe, and it gets them stuck. So, or it keeps them from going anywhere. So bringing up fear, not like waiting to dig down, 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 down. You're going to explore, you're going to follow the pace of your client, but inevitably everything comes down to fear. Somebody comes to me and says, I have 2 job offers. I can't make a decision. I'm not going to do the pros and cons. That's amateur hour, in my opinion, because most people do that, and then I still don't have a decision to make. I think, I'll look at that and I'll say, what is the misconception here? Well, the misconception is there's only one right job. And if I don't pick the one right one, I'll be fill in the blank, lost, unemployed, failing. So it's a fear underneath there. Because in reality, you can do all the research you want. There's no guarantees. You do the best you can when you pick a job and realize that if it's a learning experience, you're not trapped there. You're not an indentured servant that you can't go anywhere. It's fear. It's always fear.
So are you saying that making that people that have difficulties to make decisions, they live in fear because they don't know if they're going to make the right decision?
Well, if they are very analytical, they're waiting for the data to point the way, but the data doesn't always point the way.
Mm.
It's the heart, the soul, the creative aspect of somebody who can imagine. Yeah, if you're a thinker, you may forget you have this part of this ability, right? So it is, there are people who make decisions very logically based on data, and there are others who go with it, go with my gut. I'm gonna, try this out. Which one has the most fear? I don't know.
It's again what we talked about with the comfort zone. It's the same. It's like you're sitting in a comfort zone and then make a decision that, and it's a lot going, what if? That famous what if I take this and at the end it doesn't work and I should have gone with the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, there are times I say to my client who just like might have said something like that, I just say, so what?
Mm.
So you choose a job, you're a year into it, you don't like it. What are you going to do?
If you
But
don't take the job, you never know.
yeah,
It's yeah.
yeah. I know I mean, in ICA, we had these power tools for coaching, and one of them was game versus significance, or lightness versus significant. And that's another thing that people tend to do, become overly significant, especially about decisions. And again, I'm not I mean, I'm in a move right now, moving from New York to Philadelphia. I'm in my house 37 years and I'm packing it up and whatever. This is not easy. I mean, there's a lot of emotion. Then I'm making 27 decisions. Do I keep this? Do I not keep this? Is this, back and forth and back and forth. But the bottom line is, I'm never not going to move. It doesn't enter because I know that to be what I want. Right? When you really know who you are, what you value, and what you want, and a lot of people don't, then that kind of process that we tend to go through when we're making decisions or life changes around us, it's so much easier if you know who you are.
What I really appreciate about the question you asked before, for us as coaches to be, as you said, listening to what's happening, to be observers of the conversation, the client, also what's not happening, and that question of what's the misconception here. I think it's really great because stuckness is created. It's a perspective. It's a way that we see the world.
Yep.
Why coaching can be so powerful, because when we see it differently, suddenly everything opens up. So if there's an absence of hope, if there's an excess of fear, if we are feeling stuck, then, well, A, it's a feeling, like you said before,
Yeah.
and B, there's an assumption there, or an expectation, or a description, a worldview that is creating that. And so for us as coaches to have the courage to go, well, what is the misconception that's leading to this outcome that we're experiencing? And then, of course, to use that curiosity to voice the question, or as you did so beautifully before, to make an observation, to articulate what's
Mhm.
going on and follow that with a question that
Yeah.
builds on it. I think there's so much power there, and I can
Absolutely.
yeah.
So what is else for Mercy? What are you doing else, and what, because you have an enormous big experience in many fields. You told us before that you starting to a new podcast, testing a few things out. What's the challenge that you want to achieve with that podcast?
It started because my fellow coach, Teresa, we would meet once a week, trade business ideas, those kinds of things. And then we inevitably got on a soapbox about something, right? And we'd be like, and another thing, and blah, 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 we'd go. And at one point, she said, this is what I want. I just want to get paid to talk. I said, oh, yeah, that would be great. So we started talking about a podcast that eventually maybe have sponsorship or something. But what's in it for me these days is I know a lot. I'm not, bashful by saying, I don't know everything, although sometimes I feel I do, but I know a lot. And I can synthesize things together. And I think that makes for an interesting discussion. Also, at this point in my life, it's about legacy. It's about, like, I was here, not that I mattered, but what I did and the impact I had mattered. And that's part of what I look at. Even if I'm like taking care of my grandson, which I did for the first year of his life, um, it was about what I'm doing matters. This is a little human being that I'm getting to influence, hopefully in the most positive way ever. So, yeah.
Mm. You mentioned something about legacy. Um, how important, and I don't, I think I'm going to I hope I put the question correctly, but how important is legacy, and how do you want leave the legacy behind? And certainly as you look at coaching and what you've done in coaching, how you look at that with the legacy, and what have you planned anything? So once you're not there anymore, about your legacy?
Um, no, I don't want my name on a building. I think more in terms of every time a former student, a former coach, a client, an HR person who hired me, they come back to me and either appreciate something that is relevant in their life now, which we had talked about previously, or how working with me changed them, their life for the better. That's how I measure legacy, the impact of just being who I am. And I am never more relaxed than when I'm coaching. I don't have to do anything. I don't have to fix something, solve something, figure something out. I just have to really listen and put it through that part of my brain that digests it and thinks, what more do I want to know about this? What's curious?
It's that magic of not knowing that you spoke to before. When
Yeah.
there's not knowing, all there is the present, and you get to be present to
Mhm.
that, and the freedom that comes from that, that we can see on your face as you connect to that.
Yeah, it's very zen.
Mm.
It's it's you're channeling actually in a way, right? Like sometimes I'll come up with a question, I don't know where it's coming from, but you're accessing some inner wisdom, some soul knowledge or whatever, and it just sort of percolates up. Yeah.
They're my favorite moments, where I'm as surprised as anyone else. It's not my voice is just coming through. No, like, wow, where did that come from? That was brilliant.
Yeah, and
I
I
can't take credit, but I'll appreciate the brilliance that's there.
well, it's probably unconscious competency. That's what intuition is, unconscious competency. So I've learned over the years to not hesitate if something comes into my mind. I had a client, an attorney, and she wasn't getting the respect she deserved, according to her, from her, I guess it was her manager. And she had tried everything. We worked for a while on this. She goes, I don't know what else to do. And into my mind popped the word forgiveness. And I said, listen, this may have no relevance to what we're talking about, but in my mind just popped in the word forgiveness. Changed everything for her. Now, part of me knows that she was somebody who attends church. She's got that, like, spiritual,
Mhm.
um, and it's kind of like we never talked about it, but it was obvious just from things she was saying. So maybe that's what instigated that thought. I don't know, but it worked well, worked really well.
And of course, the courage to not only hear it and notice the intuition, but to do something with it, to
Yeah.
share that with the client, to allow them to do something with it or not, whether it lands or
Or
not.
not. Exactly. It's an offering. They can do whatever they want with it.
So what I see right now, comes to my mind when I hear you talk, is confidence and intuition. I think this is very
Mhm.
entwined because if you have the confidence as a coach, you're going to listen more to intuition that you
Yeah.
feel and express it.
Yeah. Exactly. You have to have and so what is confidence? It's quiet, it's not loud, it's being willing to be wrong and know that you're not going to die. And I always tell my coaching students, take a chance. No one ever died on the coaching table. Half the time, your client doesn't even know that it wasn't the right way to ask the question. Go with it. Don't stop to beat yourself up. Just go with it because that's where the confidence comes from. Just doing it, watching the results, either way, good or not good, whatever they want to determine it. But you're out. It's a courageous thing to do to be confident um, in your life with who you are. And coaches have to. I mean, that's the number one thing that gets in coaches' way, in my opinion. And yet, it absolutely has to be there.
Mm. As well, listening to intuition.
Yeah.
That it's
Mhm.
something like, oh, it's feeling it, but I don't know if I can. That
Yeah.
intuition, what I've seen, and I see what you said, that intuition to use it is sometimes like mind blowing when you just
Yes,
put it on the table.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Because like I said, it's unconscious competence, but intuition is you're drawing on myriad of things and experiences and knowledge and, you know, that it's just coming down all at once, right? But you're right. You have to be willing to say, well, I don't know how this is going to go, but let me throw it out to you. See what you think.
I love to use the metaphor of, oh, I found this. Is this yours, client? And the client goes, oh my gosh, I've been looking for that. Or no, all right, well, I'll put it back. But either way, I get to be unattached. I
Yes,
think that
exactly.
gives permission then to share it.
Yeah.
Mercy, this conversation could definitely go on forever, and I'm looking forward to further installments. But noticing time for those that do want to continue the conversation, learn more, or follow what you're doing and the new adventures that are happening, how can people find you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn as Merci Miglino, and my email is three M's, MMMIGLINO @gmail.com.
Great.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much, Mercy, for this
Thank you
really
guys.
profound and deep, sometimes going discussions and talking about this, because it's really sometimes going back to basics is really important. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for this, Mercy, and everybody else listening in. Thank you very much, and see you until the next episode. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.